The other big news is, of course, that somebody who hasn't betrayed us, somebody who's come back, the prodigal son returns. Rory McIlroy is Irish, and he's going to play in the Olympics for Ireland. He was asked if the Neil Manship involvement had anything to do. He was like, oh yeah, of course. Not that that's anything to do with McGinley. I just had to think it through the last time. I don't have to think it through this time. I wonder what influences the decision at this point.
Yeah, it is obviously his choice as to when this came up for discussion, just like it was the last time at the Irish Open, when it was basically made clear to a journalist that if this question came up, it would be answered in one of the press conferences in the build-up to the tournament. So I would have a similar suspicion that this was the case this time around. Why would the Olympics question come up at the PGA Championship in May 2019?
Exactly. I think that's definitely what's happened here. Like, we need to, first off here, just address the hypocrisy here from Rory McIlroy and, like, look at the quotes from yesterday, because it is kind of the way he said it. Like, as a young boy, it was always my dream to play for Ireland. I was very proud to put on that shirt or that blazer. The whole idea that he always dreamt of playing for Ireland as a kid is, to be honest with you, a hugely suspect statement because of some of the stuff he said in the past.
Well, so playing golf for Ireland meant that you were representing your country, whatever country that was, because Ireland was a 32 county, the GUI is 32 counties, so it meant that you were playing the highest representative level of golf. I buy that. I buy that
for a certain period of his golfing life and his career.
Yeah, when he was a kid.
He was to add,
when he said when he was a kid,
the Olympics, right, to the end to that sentence, that's where he might start doubting it.
Yeah, but he clearly says he doesn't care about the Olympics. It's just another tournament.
Yeah, like, to be fair, like he said before in 2012, I think it was, I've always felt more of a connection with the UK than I have with Ireland. And maybe you can boil that down to a purely sporting level, and the fact that he played golf for Ireland as a kid, and he makes the comparison with the rugby players and with the hockey team, that it's the whole of Ireland like most of the sports are, and that's fine, I think it is. But, like, he talks about the discomfort that he would feel should the Union Jack or the tricolour be raised when he's standing on the podium at the Olympic Games. And maybe we can distill it down to just his sporting outlook, and it's not a political thing whatsoever. But I really do believe that there's a hypocrisy there. Now, the thing is that hypocrisy an acceptable hypocrisy? And I actually think it is. I actually think it's totally possible for Rory McIlroy to have grown up his entire life to the point of 30 years of age and still be torn between these two things. Like, he was a young Catholic in Northern Ireland playing golf. I can't imagine he played a lot of golf with too many Catholics when he was a kid in Northern Ireland. His granduncle was murdered in the Troubles. Like, he's come through a very complex time in his life where really he has sympathies to both sides of the story in Northern Ireland. And I think it's acceptable, even at this point in his life, to still have that debate waging in his head.
Yeah, so why is that hypocrisy as opposed to just...
it's the reality of it. He's from a middle-class background in the north of Ireland, that he has grown up essentially all of his life without the Troubles. I mean, the ceasefire was in into 1994, so McIlroy, that's 25 years ago. So he was 5 years of age when the Troubles came to an end. And like an awful lot of people of his socio-economic group and age, he considered himself to be from Northern Ireland. Like, there is an identity in being Northern Irish. When you say he's torn between the two, I don't know if he's actually torn at all. It's just he's probably never considered himself to be Irish or British. If somebody asks him where he's from Northern Ireland. And there is no way to represent Northern Ireland at the Olympic Games.
Saying it was always my dream to play for Ireland, and at the same time saying that I identify myself as more British than Irish. For me, there's a bit.
You can't play for Britain when you're a child. Like, when he's like on that TV show, you know, what if he's going to play representative underage golf? Who's it going to be for?
But you see,
what's the local dream?
No,
you're a kid. It was your dream to play for Kerry. It wasn't your dream to play for Ireland. He couldn't play for Ireland, so he had a dream of playing for Kerry. He couldn't play for Northern Ireland or Britain in golf. He could play for Ireland, so his dream to play for Ireland. And it was his dream to win the Clare Jug.
I get that.
None of this is inconsistent.
I don't know about that. Like, the idea... I
don't know if it's inconsistent.
The idea I feel more British than Irish, I think, is because there is the option of playing for Britain instead of Ireland. That option is there. Like,
it wasn't when he was a child.
But, like, why would he say that as an adult? I feel more British than Irish in the context of the sport, in the context of what his nationality may be. Like, I'm not saying that it's completely wrong to say this. I'm saying that there is a past here that shows that his hypocrisy is, to a certain extent, acceptable. Like, if I was in his position, I'd be kind of torn between the two things. This sort of debate would be going on in my head as well. Like, I do think I understand what you're separating here. You're separating the fact that you wear the green jersey because as an Northern Irishman you play for Ireland. It's like being a boxer for Ireland. It's like being a hockey player for Ireland or a rugby player for Ireland. But I do think the whole line that I feel more British than Irish has to come into play here.
Somebody probably agrees with you on his laughing concrete pump. Who says the people of Ireland will want him after refusing to go the last time? Is he still playing golf? I haven't seen him win anything lately.
Well, he did win the Players' Championship in March.
Like a month ago, you know. And had like top 10 finishes in 4 out of his first 5 tournaments this year.
Yeah.
Like that's not my point, though.
He's playing pretty well. John Duggan, what do you think of this?
Ger, Dave and Owen, good morning. I'm a bit, it's fine. You know, well, the first thing is, like, I've heard the Robbie Keane line. It's always been my dream ever since I was a boy.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I heard out of the press conference. And I'm thinking it's a lot to do with Neil Manship, Shane Lowry's coach, being probably the head of the Irish Golf Tokyo project. And McIlroy and Lowry were teammates in the European Amateur Championship team in 07, and I think Lowry and Manship get on well, and I think that's a big genesis of what's going on here. Rory McIlroy, he's not had a straightforward life, really, has he? Growing up in the area of the world that he did, being vaulted through a cannonball to stardom, at a young age, and I always have got the sense, even from reading interviews like Paul Kimmage, that he's not the biggest fan, I don't think, of the public eye, and I don't think he likes being put under pressure to make decisions around things, and that's where you then get the meandering lake of quotes that we've had in the past, more British than Irish. It's all about Zika, and then saying, well, I was jumping on the bandwagon there. I resent the Olympics. I don't feel comfortable standing for an anthem in front of an Irish or British flag, to being now part of Team Ireland for Tokyo. And I think his probably mindset is all around his reminiscence of his amateur days, playing golf for Ireland, and decoupling that from any identity issues. And I think that is also reflected in the tears that he showed when he won at the K Club, won the Irish Open, a tournament that he helped save, but also then deciding, you know what, I'm not going to play at Linge because I'm Rory McIlroy and I don't want to do that.
I wonder if the political situation has actually fed into this a little bit. I think that a lot of people have had their mind changed by Brexit, by the treatment of Northern Ireland, by the UK establishment, by the Tories in particular, and by the DUP. I think that you can't watch Arlene Foster and what's gone on with Theresa May and not be a little bit kind of, I'm not really on that team. Those guys don't represent me. And I think that particularly a lot of people in Northern Ireland who previously were happy enough with the way things were tootling along have decided that actually, you know what, maybe it is time for us to take a step back from that and re-engage with a broader definition of Irishness as opposed to Northern Irishness. I think that there's a lot of stuff going on here, and
do you think that forms, I totally get the point you're making, and there's an awful lot of people sort of from the middle section of the Northern Irish societal divide that would be feeling exactly as you've described it. Do you think that's what is going on in McIlroy's head at the moment?
I think that it's
at least there's some part of it.
I think that the fact that it's in Japan, I think that it's
I think he's tuned into that, but if living in America, that he's tuned into it that much?
I think his mum and dad are, and his mum and dad don't live in America, and I think his buddies are. I think Harry Diamond, I don't think Harry Diamond lives in Florida, does he? I could be wrong about that, but certainly all his family live in Northern Ireland, and you can't not be somehow looking at Brexit and going, even from a business perspective, right? So I think, as far as I know, all of Rory's businesses are Dublin based, and they would be for corporate tax reasons. But like, I've no doubt that he's getting paid in sterling from some of his various contracts. And you're like, well, how is Brexit going to affect me? And then you start reading a little bit about it, and you're on a plane for 7 hours going somewhere, and you're reading The Economist, and it's like, what's going on? Like, certainly. A lot of people from the north who I know have become far more entrenched in their views that a united Ireland is now something that we actively are trying to pursue, as opposed to, sure, look, that'll be something for future generations to worry about. I'm not saying it's the overall overarching thing. I'd say the opportunity to go to Japan and be a star in Japan when the world's golf media...
Well, also, I think watching Justin Rose win in Rio, and Justin Rose was so proud of it, and Woods wants to play in Rio, and maybe there is now, it was the first time since 2004. It was kind of viewed as, like, I think the thing about Olympics has always been, it should be the pinnacle of your sport, winning a gold medal at the Olympics, right? So that would be the case in track and field, not the case in tennis, not the case in golf, definitely not, where it's the Wanamaker Trophy this week, or football. But actually, it was a very good tournament, the Olympic tournament that Justin Rose won, and maybe there was a bit of recalibration after that. I think Tokyo is an exciting place, and also there's a global branding probably part of this with McIlroy, not the dominant figure that he maybe was 4 or 5 years ago, because he hasn't won a major in 5 years. That also might be part of the calculations. So a lot of play, and he probably has picked various things of what we're all speaking about and used them for his mindset, you know.